Look around you. Take a very close, brutally honest look at the hierarchy of the real world. The most successful people in any given room are rarely the nicest. The wealthiest people are almost never the most generous. The most powerful people are definitely not the most caring. The individuals who are actually running things, the ones pulling the strings and dominating the board, are not the people who dutifully followed all the rules. They are not the ones who constantly put others first. They are not the ones who forgave everyone, trusted blindly, and handed out the benefit of a doubt like it was free candy. You have noticed this. Everyone notices this. And everyone aggressively pretends not to notice because it makes them incredibly uncomfortable. It shatters the fragile little illusion they call reality. But what if the exact traits you were systematically taught to reject are actually the precise traits that create monumental success? What if selfishness, coldness, ruthlessness, manipulation, paranoia, greed, and shamelessness, all the things society explicitly told you were evil, what if those aren't bugs in the human operating system? What if they are the premium features? What if the worst people aren't winning despite being bad? What if they are winning precisely because they wield the exact traits you were programmed to throw away? You were raised to be a good little pawn. Be kind, be selfless, be forgiving, be trusting, be content, be perfectly humble. And you did it. You followed the programming to the letter. You became the ideal good person they wanted you to be. And look exactly where it got you. Overlooked, underpaid, taken advantage of, exhausted. You sit there, watching people who break every single rule you follow succeed wildly, while you do everything right and get absolutely nothing in return. Today, we are going to dissect the 7 traits that society labels as toxic, but that actually act as the engines of undeniable success. Not so you become a cartoon villain, but so you finally see the weapons you have been throwing away. So you understand that the worst people are not actually worse than you. They simply kept the weapons you voluntarily disarmed yourself of, because some manipulator told you those weapons were wrong to possess. I must warn you, this is going to make you profoundly uncomfortable. It is going to violently challenge everything you believe about good and bad. It is going to show you that some of your deepest, most cherished virtues are actually your absolute biggest handicaps. If you want to keep blindly believing that nice people finish first, turn this off right now and go back to finishing last. But if you are ready to understand the game you have been losing your entire life, keep listening. Let us begin with the first trait society calls bad: selfishness. From the moment you could understand words, you were taught that selfishness is inherently wrong. Put others first. Make sure everyone else is comfortable before you worry about your own needs. If you have something, share it. If someone needs you, drop everything and be there. Give your time, give your energy, give your finite resources. The good person bleeds for others. The selfish person keeps their blood. And because you desperately wanted to be good, you gave and gave and gave. But look at the apex predators. Look at the people actually winning the game. They put themselves first, always, without a single drop of apology. They do not drain their own life force, making sure everyone else is satisfied. They make absolutely certain they are secure first. Then, and only then, if there is a surplus, maybe they assist others. Their oxygen mask goes on first. Always. Not sometimes. Always. Here is the dark psychological truth nobody told you about selflessness. It is not noble. It is incredibly foolish. Every single time you put someone else first, you are initiating a direct transfer of your finite resources to them. And the question you are too polite to ask is, why? What exactly are you getting back? Are they putting you first when you are drowning? Are they draining themselves for you the way you drain yourself for them? Almost never. You give everything, they take everything, and you call this being virtuous, they call it being weak. The people benefiting from your selflessness are not grateful. They are thinking, I can get more from them. They found a resource that gives without boundaries. That is not a virtue, that is a target. You are not being good, you are being used. Selfishness is not evil. Selfishness is baseline resource protection. The selfish person ensures their survival before funding anyone else's. You have been avoiding selfishness because the people extracting your resources told you it was bad. Your empty tank is exactly what fuels their full tank. The selfless person gets systematically destroyed in an ecosystem full of selfish people. The worst people prioritize themselves, but good people prioritize everyone else. Guess who ends up owning the board? The second trait goes even deeper. This one controls how you process reality, how you respond to pressure, and how you operate when the walls close in. The second trait society calls bad is coldness. You are conditioned to be warm, be highly emotional, show people how much you care, let them see your feelings, connect with your fragile heart, not your logical head. Good people feel things deeply. Cold people are broken psychopaths. You internalize this beautiful lie. You became warm. You led with your feelings. You made massive life decisions based on how things felt, rather than on what actually made mathematical sense. But observe the people running the world. They are freezing cold, detached, supremely logical. They absolutely do not make decisions based on emotional weather. They make decisions based exclusively on what works. When the rest of the room is panicking and crying, they are silently calculating. When everyone else is drowning in emotion, they are executing strategy. They process chaotic situations with their prefrontal cortex, not their bleeding hearts. And they effortlessly outmaneuver everyone who cannot do the same. Here is what they intentionally hid from you about emotional warmth. It makes you infinitely exploitable. Your emotions are exposed control panels. Anyone who learns your specific buttons can press them at will. If they can make you feel guilty, you will do whatever they demand. If they can manufacture sympathy, you will forgive betrayals you should violently punish. Your warmth is not connecting you to people. It is handing them the remote control to your life. Think about how many times your emotions drove you off a cliff. Your feelings overrode your logic, and you suffered the consequences every single time. The cold person is immune to this specific virus. They still feel things. They just absolutely refuse to let those temporary feelings dictate their permanent decisions. Coldness is not cruelty. Coldness is simply decision-making entirely stripped of emotional interference. The cold person assesses the battlefield logically, asks what makes empirical sense, determines what serves their ultimate objective, and executes. No guilt, no synthetic sympathy, no manipulation through emotional blackmail. They see the board with terrifying clarity because they do not let the fog of emotion blind them. Never let your emotions overpower your intelligence. Emotions are pure interference. The warm person gets played like a cheap instrument. The cold person is an impenetrable fortress. That is not cruelty. That is maximum level protection. The worst people think with logic. The good people think with feelings. Calculate who makes the better move. Underneath coldness lies the third trait. This one dictates who is allowed to breathe the air in your proximity and who gets permanently removed. Without this trait, the first two are completely useless because you will allow parasites to stick around forever. The third trait society calls bad is ruthlessness. You were taught to be endlessly forgiving, hand out second chances like flyers, be infinitely patient with flawed people. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone deserves another opportunity at the table. Good people search for the invisible best in others. Good people wait for toxic people to magically change. Good people extend limitless grace, and so you became a museum of forgiveness. You became the person who always offered just one more chance. But look at how the elite protect their empires. They amputate toxic limbs incredibly fast, without a single drop of guilt. There are no long, emotional conversations about how much they have been hurt. There are no endless cycles of chance after chance. Someone betrays them once, gone. Someone exposes their true, treacherous colors, removed. Someone proves they lack integrity, deleted. Absolutely no explanation is owed. No theatrical closure is provided, just permanent absence. Here is the terrifying truth about your endless forgiveness. It actively ensures that toxic people remain permanently anchored in your life. Every single time you forgive a snake that bit you, you are strictly training them that they can bite you again. You are not being gracious. You are being historically foolish. They do not learn gratitude. They learn that there are absolutely zero real-world consequences for disrespecting you. They learn that they can execute whatever manipulation they want, and your boundaries are merely polite suggestions, not ironclad laws. Think about the parasite who keeps draining you. How many chances have you handed them? How many times have they delivered a beautifully rehearsed apology, and you eagerly swallowed it? You are still waiting. You are still forgiving, and they are still exploiting you. Because your forgiveness is their enabler. Your patience is their permission slip. The ruthless person mathematically eliminates this pattern. They remove the threat at the very first sign of intentional betrayal. And guess what? They do not have repeat offenders in their circle. Ruthlessness is not cruel. Ruthlessness is simply highly efficient quality control for your life. The ruthless person possesses unbreakable standards. Cross the line, and you are permanently evicted. Not because they are malicious, but because they value their own empire entirely too much to populate it with traitors. That is not being cold. That is having supreme self-respect. The only difference between ruthlessness and boundaries is that ruthless individuals actually enforce their boundaries instantly, without opening a negotiation. The forgiving person injures halfway. They express their deep disappointment, but they keep the traitor close. They actively cultivate resentful enemies who sleep in their own camp. The ruthless person removes the variable completely. No halfway measures, no lingering threats, just a permanent void where that person used to be. The worst people amputate problems immediately. The good people offer problems unlimited lease agreements. Guess whose mind is more peaceful? This brings us to the fourth trait. This is the mechanism you use to navigate the world strategically, rather than naively. The fourth trait society calls bad is manipulation. You are strictly taught that manipulation is pure evil. Be completely honest. Be totally direct. Be completely transparent. Say exactly what you mean, and mean exactly what you say. Do not attempt to influence people's minds. Do not play strategic games. Good people are straightforward. Manipulators are villains. So, you became an open book. You said exactly what was on your mind. You broadcasted your exact emotions. You played zero games. But look at the individuals who effortlessly extract what they want from the world. They are masters of influence. They know exactly how to frame a narrative so that people enthusiastically agree with them. They understand the precise mechanics of when to aggressively push and when to strategically pull back. They know the exact psychological levers that motivate different archetypes of people. They know how to position their own requests so they appear as massive benefits to the other party. They know how to make an opponent believe that surrendering was their own brilliant idea. They deeply understand the source code of human psychology, and they weaponize it every single day. Here's what they kept secret about your precious honesty. It is a massive, debilitating handicap in an ecosystem completely populated by strategic operators. While you are being completely direct, they are being highly strategic, While you are laying all your cards face up on the table, they are mathematically calculating which specific cards to reveal. While you are blurting out the unfiltered truth, they are delivering the highly calibrated version of the truth that specifically serves their agenda. You are playing checkers. They are playing three-dimensional chess. And you keep getting wiped off the board while proudly calling it integrity. Think about the negotiations you have completely botched. The arguments where you held the objective truth but still lost the crowd. The scenarios where you blurted out the honest thing and it catastrophically backfired. The relationships where your extreme transparency handed an opponent the exact ammunition they needed to destroy you. Your radical honesty is not noble. It is incredibly naive. You are operating under the delusion that everyone is playing by your rigid moral code. They are not. A percentage of the population is playing a deeply strategic game, and they effortlessly defeat the honest people every single time because honest people are entirely predictable. Manipulation is not inherently evil. Manipulation is simply possessing a deep understanding of human mechanics and applying that knowledge. Everyone influences everyone else constantly. That is the definition of communication. The only distinction between influence and manipulation is whether the target approves of your objective. When they align with your goal, society calls it persuasion. When they oppose it, society labels it manipulation. It is the exact same psychological technique, just wearing a different label. You have been actively avoiding manipulation because society conditioned you to believe it was wicked. Meanwhile, the architects of society have been seamlessly manipulating you into avoiding it so they maintain their monopoly on power. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Perception is the only reality that matters. The strategic entity manages perception ruthlessly. They showcase what elevates them. They obscure what damages them. They sculpt exactly how the world perceives them. The honest person exposes their entire underbelly. They hand everyone the exact blueprints to their own destruction, and they call it being authentic. It is being a fool. The fifth trade is what locks the doors of your fortress. Society calls it bad. I call it paranoia. You were heavily instructed to trust your fellow man. Give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Assume the best possible intentions. Blindly believe the words falling out of their mouths. Good people are not deeply suspicious. Good people take humanity at face value. So you became trusting, open, and dangerously vulnerable. You blindly believed the actors until they gave you a catastrophic reason not to. But analyze the people who are never, ever caught off guard by betrayal. They dispense trust incredibly slowly. They verify every single variable. They watch the long-term behavioral patterns, completely ignoring the sweet words. They operate under the default assumption that everyone has a hidden agenda until proven otherwise through a trial by fire. They absolutely refuse to hand out the benefit of the doubt, because doubt is their ultimate shield. They may appear paranoid to the uninitiated, but they are never ever blindsided. They never wake up with a knife in their back because they never took their eyes off the room. Here is the fatal flaw in your trust. It is a massive vulnerability. Every single time you trust a human being, you are placing a blind bet at a casino. You are betting that they will honor their word. You are betting that they will prioritize your interests alongside theirs. And you are frequently placing these massive bets with almost zero empirical data. You just met an individual, and you are handing them your trust. You just started a business deal, and you are trusting their handshake. You barely know their true character in the dark, and you are voluntarily handing them the exact access codes required to destroy you. Trace back every devastating betrayal you have ever endured. Did the strike come from a random stranger, or did it come from someone sitting at your table? It came from the person you trusted. It mathematically always does. Strangers lack the clearance to betray you because you never gave them access to your vital organs. But the people you blindly trusted, you unlocked the vault. You invited them inside, and then they executed exactly what humans do when presented with unearned access and zero verification. They served their own dark interests entirely at your expense. Your unverified trust was the vehicle that made your destruction possible. Paranoia is not clinical insanity. Paranoia is simply mandatory verification before you invest your capital, your time, or your emotions. The paranoid entity does not place an ounce of faith in words. They strictly monitor behavior over extended timelines. They intentionally deploy small, calculated tests to gauge loyalty before they ever consider trusting someone with the keys to the empire. They keep their heavy armor fully engaged until a person has proven through repeated actions under pressure that they are not a parasite, that is not living a life consumed by fear. That is operating with elite intelligence. The only difference between paranoia and prudence is the degree of application. A healthy dose of paranoia prevents a lifetime of agonizing pain. Deceivers heavily rely on your programmed desire to trust. They count on you taking the path of least resistance and simply accepting their beautifully crafted lies. Your paranoia completely shatters their game. A manipulator cannot deceive a mind that constantly verifies. They can only deceive a mind that blindly trusts. The worst people verify everything. The good people trust everything. Who is walking around with fewer knives in their back? The sixth trait is the engine of expansion. Society calls it greed. You were conditioned to be perfectly content. Be endlessly grateful for the meager scraps you have. Do not be overly materialistic. Do not harbor an insatiable hunger for more. Enough is enough. Good people are deeply satisfied. Greedy people are wretched and unhappy. So, you forced yourself to be content, grateful, fully accepting of your highly limited parameters. You manually deactivated your hunger because wanting more was framed as a sin. But observe the titans who actually construct the world. They possess an endless, consuming hunger for more. They are absolutely never satisfied. They conquer one objective and immediately lock their sights on a massive, previously unthinkable target. They accumulate resources, power, and territory, and they never stop accumulating. There is no artificial ceiling. There is no concept of enough. There is only more. They are labeled as greedy, but they continue expanding their empires into the stratosphere while you remain completely frozen in the exact same spot. Here is the unvarnished truth about your contentment. It is the absolute death of human ambition. The exact moment you decide you are content, you completely stop applying pressure. When you become deeply grateful for your current limitations, you stop aggressively reaching for your true maximum potential. When enough is enough, you mathematically guarantee you will never possess a single drop more than enough. Contentment feels incredibly peaceful, but it is the dark, heavy peace of surrender. It is the peace of accepting an arbitrary ceiling. It is the peace of remaining exactly where you are until the clock runs out on your existence. Look at the massive canyon between what you have accomplished and what you are biologically capable of accomplishing. Are you genuinely content with that massive gap? Are you truly grateful for your own self-imposed limitation? The content individual makes permanent peace with the gap. The greedy individual violently closes it. The content person signs a treaty with mediocrity. The greedy person wages total war against mediocrity. Society convinced you that the content person is morally superior and happier, but the content person is simply more comfortable marinating in their own failure. Greed is not evil. Greed is simply raw, unbridled ambition stripped of its artificial ceiling. The greedy entity demands more because more is mathematically possible. Why on earth would you halt your ascent when you still have oxygen in your lungs? Why would you accept a fraction when you are capable of seizing the whole? The only reason is because a terrified society told you that wanting the whole pie was bad, and they told you that because your docile contentment makes you incredibly easy to manage. Your satisfied, complacent little smile makes you infinitely easier to control than a monster who never stops demanding more territory. The desire to acquire is woven into the very fabric of human nature. Everyone secretly wants more. The only difference is that the weak suppress the urge out of shame, while the strong fully weaponize it. The suppressors remain stuck in the mud. The actors continue to climb the mountain. Your greed is not a mark of shame. It is high-octane fuel. Are you going to ignite it, or are you going to bury it? This brings us to the seventh and final trait, the apex trait that holds the entire framework together. Without this, you will never possess the sheer audacity to wield the first six in the light of day. The seventh trait society calls bad is shamelessness. You were strictly instructed to care deeply about the opinions of the crowd. Be humble, be invisible, do not draw excess attention to your existence, do not be overly confident, do not display your pride. Good people are hyper-aware of societal judgment. Good people feel a crushing weight of shame when they deviate from the norm. Good people are paralyzed by how the collective perceives them. You internalized this. You became small, modest, hyper-aware of every sideways glance, terrified of external perception. But watch the predators who actively seize exactly what they desire. They do not care what you think. They simply do not care. They execute whatever strategy works, regardless of the public optics. They aggressively demand things that would make you blush with embarrassment. They ruthlessly promote their own interests in ways you would find deeply shameful. They aggressively claim the credit. They consume the space. They monopolize the attention. And when the weak masses sit back and judge them, they do not even flinch. They just keep accelerating because the opinions of sheep are of zero concern to the wolf. Here is the ultimate truth about your shame. It is a heavy spiked collar around your neck, and society is holding the leash. Every single time you feel the sting of shame, you are being completely controlled by the hypothetical thoughts of strangers. You refuse to launch the empire because the crowd might judge your ambition. You refuse to demand the true value of your time because it might appear overly greedy. You refuse to claim your space because you are terrified of the critics. You are aggressively suffocating your own potential because you are terrified of wanting it. Your shame is not a moral compass. It is a psychological prison, and the opinions of irrelevant people act as the iron bars. Calculate the massive, staggering cost of everything you have failed to execute strictly because of shame. The golden opportunities you let slip away, the bold requests you swallowed, the immense success you intentionally avoided, all because you were paralyzed by the thought of what irrelevant, unremarkable people might say. People who are not even looking in your direction. People who are completely consumed by their own pathetic problems. You artificially limited the scope of your entire existence to appease the opinions of ghosts. Shamelessness is not blind arrogance. Shamelessness is absolute liberation from external control. The shameless entity executes the winning strategy, aggressively promotes their own empire, demands exactly what they want, and relentlessly pursues absolute success. Not because they are obnoxious, but because they absolutely refuse to allow the hypothetical judgments of inferior minds to limit their actual, physical reality. That is not an inflated ego. That is total psychological liberation. The shameless do not pause to ask for your applause before they act. Caring about being loved hands the crowd a remote control to your soul. They can manipulate you effortlessly through your desperate addiction to their approval. The shameless entity does not require your approval. They do not fear your petty judgments. They cannot be controlled by threats to their reputation because they do not worship at the altar of reputation. They do what works, period. Your irrelevant opinion is dust in the wind to their execution. The worst people do not care what you think. The good people construct their entire reality around what the crowd might think. Calculate who breathes free air. Selfishness, coldness, ruthlessness, manipulation, paranoia, greed, shamelessness. Assemble these 7 components and you have constructed the ultimate nightmare for polite society. The exact person the masses label as toxic, the person the weak constantly judge, the person the cowards furiously whisper about, and the exact person everyone secretly, enviously watches succeed while they themselves fail in the dark. You were systematically programmed to reject every single one of these traits. Not for your own protection, but for theirs. Selfless people are remarkably easy to exploit. Warm people are effortlessly manipulated through their bleeding hearts. Forgiving people are incredibly easy to abuse because they never permanently remove the abuser. Honest people are child's play to outmaneuver because their entire playbook is facing up on the table. Trusting people are ridiculously easy to betray because they never demand verification. Content people are perfectly easy to keep at the bottom because they never violently demand more. Ashamed people are flawlessly easy to control because you simply threaten their fragile reputation. Your supposed virtues were never ever designed to make you successful. They were flawlessly engineered to make you manageable, controllable, deeply exploitable. The architects who conditioned you to be good did not have your empire in mind. They had their own extreme convenience in mind. An entire globe populated by good people is an ecosystem packed with resources that are incredibly easy to harvest. By integrating these traits, you are not mutating into pure evil. You are systematically removing the heavy chains from your wrists. You are finally picking up the exact weapons they told you were a sin to carry. You are becoming highly competitive in a ruthless game where the apex players are already utilizing these exact strategies. The only difference is that they maintain the polite illusion, publicly celebrating virtue while privately executing everything I just mapped out. The only difference between you and them is that they dropped the naive act decades ago. When you begin to implement this programming, the good people in your orbit are going to notice the sudden, terrifying shift. They will clearly see you prioritizing your own empire first. They will watch you executing freezing cold decisions. They will witness you ruthlessly amputating toxic connections. They will see you operating with dark, strategic precision. They will notice your extreme paranoia and demand for verification. They will feel the heat of your unquenchable greed for more. They will see you completely disregarding their petty opinions. And they will loudly, aggressively judge you. They will call you changed, cold, selfish, unrecognizable, good. You are not who you used to be. You are no longer the naive pawn who finishes last. You are no longer the disposable resource that gets overlooked, underpaid, and drained dry. You are no longer running the obsolete, handicapped software while everyone else runs the elite competitive programming. Let them scream and call you the worst person on earth. Do you want to know what the absolute worst people possess that the good people never will? Success, undeniable power, infinite resources, absolute freedom. While the good people are busy being good and losing everything, the worst people are being dark, strategic, and winning the entire board. Now you know exactly why. Now you possess the blueprint. The only question remaining is whether you are going to desperately cling to your precious goodness and keep losing, or whether you are finally ready to become the absolute worst person in the room. The one the weak judge, the one the sheep whisper about, the one everyone enviously watches ascend to the throne while they rot in the mud. The worst people are always the most successful. Now you understand the mechanics. Now you have the clearance to become one of them. You made it to the end of this broadcast because a dark, suppressed part of your psychology already knew this was the objective truth. Absolute success does not reward pathetic goodness. It exclusively rewards brutal decisiveness, clinical detachment, and the terrifying ability to act without a single drop of hesitation. The titans who conquer the world are not the most moral. They are the most ruthlessly strategic. If this transmission finally shattered your illusions, state it clearly in the comments. Right, I see the board. Let us count exactly how many minds are truly prepared to wield power without the burden of illusions. Stop suffering in the light, embrace the dark.